In this lesson, we are going to create a database include, which will allow us to establish our database connection, but place that in a PHP script that is reusable throughout all of our administrative screens.
Okay.
The idea here is that we have some very simple generic code that is going to connect to the database.
Okay.
And having that code duplicated throughout all of our scripts would be redundant.
I see. So pretty much what you're going to do is you're going to have your code in the future lessons look back at this one particular folder, so you wouldn't have to keep typing that same code over and over and over again.
Exactly. So let's write this file. Let's create a new blank document, so blank HTML page. Switch over to source and delete everything out. Again, this is just going to be some simple PHP code for establishing a database connection. The final goal of this code is to make the $dblink variable accessible and point back to a database connection which can be used.
I see.
So let's open our PHP tag and close it. So we'll say $dblink is equal to MySQL connect, where we will specify our host name, so our DS3 server, our username, so logging, and our password, so fleas2, like such. And just like you saw in previous lessons, we are going to issue the check on $dblink to make sure that our database connection did in fact work.
Okay.
So I'll say if, well, technically the check is for if it did not work so that we can fail out.
Right.
So we'll say if not $dblink, then we will echo out an error message. So let's echo error connecting to database. And since all our scripts are going to be dependent on this database connection working, we're going to go ahead and exit out immediately, or as soon as this error occurs, because we don't need to go any further.
I see.
So, if the database connection succeeds, we will then need to select a specific database for use. So we will run the MySQL select DB, feed it the name of the database which we wish to select, so logging, and the connection is $db. Whoops. Keys getting a little mixed up there.
Yeah.
It's a $db link. Now, once again, we want to check and see whether or not this succeeds, so we're going to put the entire function within an if statement to say if we were unable to select this database, then show some form of error. Now, just to speed things up, I'm going to copy these two lines, paste them into place, and in this case we'll say error selecting database, and also exit. Now, if this succeeds, then this should present us with the $database link as a usable variable to point back to the connection, which we could use in our administrative screen.
I see, okay.
So let's save this out. I'm going to save it up under our logging web root, but I'm going to create a folder to store this in. I'm going to make an includes folder, and that's where I'm going to store it. That keeps it out of the way of all the other files.
Right.
And we'll call this db.php.
Okay.
So now what we need to do is let's make a simple test script. This seems fine, but if we run it by itself, it's not going to produce any output unless there was an error.
Right.
We want to set up a test scenario of what it would be like to use this for real.
Okay.
So to do that, I'm going to create another blank page, and we'll use this as a temporary throwaway script. We're just ensuring that our database connection script is working.
Okay.
So load up some PHP tags, and then the first thing we need to do is to include that database script. So let's say include. Now, we need to put, of course we're going to be putting db.php here, but we need to keep in mind how our file structure is working. The idea is to have all our main scripts run from this directory where we have all the HTML files. So the idea is to save our test.php here. It's going to be including this db.php. But we need to put this part of the path, the includes path, as part of the include itself.
I see.
Meaning this by itself wouldn't work because there is no db.php here.
Right, right.
What we need to do is type includes /db.php.
I see, okay. Essentially you're telling it which folder to go look in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
So, let's, after including that, we should have a database connection, which means we can run queries.
Okay.
So let's try it out. Let's make a simple query, and we'll say that that is, let's use the old test table. Select star from test.
Okay.
Then we'll run that and store it in $result. So $result equals MySQL query, $query, and point it back at the old $db link. So with that, we should be able to echo out one of the things that that would return. So we'll echo out MySQL result, feed it $result. We'll just grab row 0 and grab the username field.
I see.
So we'll save this. Make sure we go up a level. We don't want to save it under the includes folder.
Okay.
We'll call it test.php. Now we'll go back to a web browser. And let's navigate to our DS3 server. And so here we have the Stones River logging site, just verifying that it's in the right folder. Now what we wanted to look at was test.php.
Okay. And look at that.
So check it out.
There you go.
So everything is working. We have, if we look back over in Go Live, we have a simple database script, and its job is to establish a database connection.
Right.
Then later, all we have to do is include that script, and we can immediately jump in and start running queries.
Cool.
Now there is one final thing I'd like to point out, and that is, like we said in the past, the password is stored in plain text in the database script file.
Right.
If you're in charge of the web server and you have the ability to disallow access to certain folders, then I would make sure that you block off access to the includes folder.
Okay.
What that would do is make it so that no one can directly access the database script itself.
Ah, okay.
Now, of course, this may vary depending on what your web host is.
Right.
But if that is within your power to do, that would be a good idea.
Okay.
Now, it's still not entirely insecure. I mean, if someone was to run this database script, what does it output? It either outputs nothing, or it outputs error messages. That alone doesn't hint to your password. The only way this could actually get shown to a web browser is if the server configuration was to fail in a way that would cause all the code to get dumped out. Basically, if the PHP configuration failed.
I see.
Which is unlikely unless someone is messing with the server and messes something up.
I see. Okay.
So it really shouldn't be too much of a concern. Just one thing I was going to point out is that if you can block access to this folder, it would be a good idea.
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
But really, that's all we needed to cover. So this is just a quick lesson over how to set up a database script to be included in all other scripts that we will be using. So that's going to wrap up this lesson.